The EF5 tornado that hit several more schools back in 2013 sparked demands then to put storm shelters in all Oklahoma schools. Now, 10 years later, only on News 9, we are researching how much progress has been made since Plaza Towers. Sydney Engel, Antonia Candelaria, Emily Knatzer, Kyle Davis, Janae Hornsby, Christopher Legg, and Nicholas McCabe. 7 third graders who did everything they had practiced, seated against a wall inside Plaza Towers Elementary, bracing for a monster tornado's impact.
There was just absolutely no hope of that school surviving.
Those 7 did not survive. Now, 10 years later, Christopher's mom, Danny Legg, still keeps in touch with many of his classmates.
I hope they find inspiration and not sadness.
If Danny's name sounds familiar, it's because she has also become a force of nature.
For the last 10 years, Danny, you have been one of the loudest voices, one of the loudest advocates for getting storm shelters in schools. What drives you?
That week after Chris died, I didn't want this to ever happen to another person's kid.
She fought at the state capitol and worked on a ballot initiative to put shelters in every school in the state.
Today, Take Shelter Oklahoma began collecting signatures.
When that failed, she began visiting individual districts.
I put my grief to work. I didn't want to sit still.
We reached out to every school district in the state to see what progress has been made since 2013. Out of the 531 districts and tech centers statewide, 40% of them responded to us, including the 9 largest in-person districts in the state. That accounts for about 60% of all Oklahoma students. We found that through Danny and others' efforts, 65% of districts have added more protection for kids. Based on our sample, before 2013, only 25% of schools had adequate shelter. Now that number has jumped to 57%.
What is that like when you hear from a school, okay, we're going to put in a storm shelter? What is that like for you when you know that?
Honestly, it's like, finally.
The deaths of Christopher Legg and his classmates have weighed heavy on Moore Superintendent Robert Romines.
This last year, our third graders that we lost at Plaza Towers would have graduated last year, and so that one was hard. That one was hard.
Dr. Romines had only been on the job as Moore's superintendent for about a week when the 2013 tornado hit. At that time, the school district had storm shelters in 2 of its schools, and that was only because FEMA paid for them after the '99 tornado. Superintendent Romines says the mindset was that tornadoes in Oklahoma, for the most part, happen after school hours.
We know a school in Moore has been hit, an elementary school.
2013 changed the way you looked at how you prepare for kids' safety.
It changed our tabletop discussions, it changed our approach, and it changed a lot of decision making in regards to safety.
Conversations about storm shelters in all of Moore schools happened immediately, and the community decided to fund it.
That was probably one of the highest percentages as far as rate passage for a bond issue in district history.
Now in Moore, all the district's 35 schools have shelters. As for the other schools that responded to our survey, 76% of them have enough space to shelter the entire student body. The impact of that protection became clear this past April when a tornado caused extensive damage to the Shawnee High School. But a safe room, added through a 2016 bond issue, was still standing strong.
The great news was that room itself is completely intact, so we know if people had been in there, they would have been safe.
But according to our sample, about 10% of schools have no storm shelters for students and staff. And that includes Geary in Canadian County.
If something were to happen during school right now, we're simply hoping that everyone makes it through that safe, and that's kind of scary.
Right now, all 260 students have to walk outdoors in the storm to get to their safe spots in 3 separate buildings, funneled downstairs into locker rooms and classrooms.
Inside of the old gymnasium area, there's a downstairs portion under what used to be like a stage. We are underground at this point, but this is the space that we have for all of our middle school and high school students.
That's about 140 kids, plus staff. Superintendent Sean Buchanan says it's a squeeze.
Directly above us is a wooden stage, and that's really all the protection from the outside that we have. So obviously in an event where you have twisting winds of hundreds of miles an hour, that is not safe for our students. And so we're bringing them to this space because it's the lowest space in our school, but at the same time it's actually not a safe space.
Buchanan says the district tried most recently last August to pass a bond issue for a new school building where all the kids would be under one roof with access to FEMA-rated storm shelters. But nearly 65% of the town voted against it due to the cost of property tax increases. Now the district is looking for new solutions.
It's not a problem you can just throw your hands up and go, well, it's okay. You know, it didn't work. You know, this is something we have to figure out for the benefit of these kids.
Kids like Danny's son.
Is your work done?
No, no. Once every school in Oklahoma is sheltered, I might retire. Right now, we're not.
And the fight to expand storm shelters for students does not stop here in Oklahoma. In fact, Danny is now involved in helping other states like Kansas and Texas.